Yes, it's Wednesday, February the 28th. It's the last day of February already. Where did the time go? It was just January the 1st when we started off, and now we're closing up of February. Well, we're doing it with excitement as always. Good morning and welcome. How are you channeling your energies, by the way? Remember, you live purposefully when you channel your energies right, and you don't know where the time went while you're doing that. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I am Bukola Koka, and I'm sure that my dependable men are channeling their energies right. Of course, in fact, I have evidence.
Yeah, I wonder how February feels right now. February has gone through a lot.
Yeah.
Top on that list is Bukola taking one day out of February. February has 29
Oh, 29 days.
So,
thank you for the reminder.
I mean, yesterday was me saying today is Wednesday. When it was Tuesday, Bukola, you caught the bug.
Yeah, I caught it.
Jeffrey, don't catch it tomorrow.
No, I ain't going to catch it. Tomorrow is the last day of February, so I'm not going to catch it. Hey, guys, welcome to the show. It's going to be an amazing one. I always promise that because that is the expectation. Okay, so however it turns out, I always say, choose one option, and I will suggest choose happiness. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzomo.
And I'm Kayode Okikulu. We're live for you here in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos. We call it the city that never sleeps. Yes, leave it like that for us.
Yes, sir. We like it like that. And it's a bumper package that we have for you today. It's been an eventful last 24 hours. Speaking of which, Jeffrey?
Bukola has been giving us some English that I have not been hearing for a long time. Bumper package. One day I heard her say spinster. What in the world?
So she has a way of,
I don't know.
of unearthing some of those words.
Well, Jeffrey,
know.
my father is ancient of days, so maybe it's in my subconscious.
But let's tell you what we have for you on the program today. Members of organized labor stormed major streets across the country to protest the rising cost of living and general economic hardship across the land. Now, what was supposed to be a two-day protest has been cut short after the first day. What's the way forward? We'll find out from a top official of the union. Why did labor back out? Let's find out.
Interesting times, absolutely. But that's not all we have for you on the show this morning. In what has been adjudged a bold move coming 12 years down the line, the federal government has essentially announced the restructuring of parastatals and the rest. And now this decision essentially commends the implementation of a Steve Oronsaye report on cutting cost of governance on the recommendation of a 2022 and 2012 reports on restructuring and rationalization of MDAs, parastatals, and the rest. So we'll be speaking with a man who is central to that implementation. The agency is really central to that implementation. So how much will this move the needle? We'll find out on the show this morning.
Well, you know, it's never easy when you're left alone in your most critical time, but I'll take this, you know, with all of the pride in the world. Now, so yesterday I sat down to reflect on the continuing hardship, and I finally concluded it was time to jump ship. But when I considered the value of the naira in my account, I realized that what I needed was a change in notion to roll up my sleeves so I could help build a nation.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, MC Bukola right there.
So, rate my rap skills, ladies and gentlemen. Join us today as we recall the days of yore when the Nigerian rap and hip-hop genre were the rave of the major entertainment programming on radio and television, and still is a force, by the way, for resistance against social ills, as is the rap music brand receding into the shadows. Of course, we'll be asking, you know, one of the major rap force and characters in the Nigerian entertainment scene. Illbliss joins us this morning. You don't want to miss it.
Bukola, I wanted to do, okay, let's do. Let's get. Bukola, go.
Yo,
I forgot it. Like.
What? Bukola was rapping.
this was your moment to blow right here.
This was an opportunity to become a rap star. You missed it.
Let's go again. So when I sat down and reflected on the hardship, I decided it was time to jump ship. But when I reconsidered the naira in my account, I realized I had to change my notion so that I could help build a nation. Oh,
DJ
give me a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. You see what the situation in the country is causing. Bukola has developed and discovered
another talent.
Multiple streams of income.
Thank you.
I love that.
I'm sure Illbliss is watching, so
Maybe
I'm sure
Illbliss
it's going to rate you and sign you up to.
Yeah.
What's that his record level? We'll find out. But We're super excited. Look, Bukola can rap. I never knew Bukola. On this show, Bukola has become a sports pundit.
Yeah.
Now Bukola has added rap.
Fashion icon.
Fashion icon. Yeah. Bukola has now added rap. What else are you going to add?
Well, we'll find out. Maybe acting.
The show is just 2 months old. Bukola has changed career 3 times.
So that's why you guys decided to abandon me, right? Don't worry. Illbliss is going to sign me on.
Oh, boy.
After the show today. So then I'll be able to, sit back.
But that was really good. We're impressed. That was really good.
That was very good. And
and dust my shoulder.
Yeah, well, that was really good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
We're hoping that you're finding this, fun as well. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening, but it's always good to just...
Exactly.
But make the best, make the best of the times. As we said, channel your energies right amid all of this. In spite of the hardship, many Nigerians are doing wonderful, awesome things.
You sign an autograph for me after that.
Yes, after that, you sign an autograph. Meanwhile, let's also remind you, just before we get to the top stories, that the third mainland bridge will be closing. They've given a notification. This notification came, what day? I think 26th, which was just 2 days ago.
Yeah, on Monday.
That they will close the third mainland bridge. Total closure of the third mainland bridge from noon today. From noon today. So by noon today, you can no longer pass through the third mainland bridge, and it will be closed all the way to noon on Thursday, which is tomorrow. So from 12 p.m. to 12 p.m. the next day. So today, 12 p.m. to tomorrow's 12 p.m., the 2 lanes will be closed for some major repairs according to the federal government. So if you're using or you intend to use that bridge within this period, you need to seek alternative routes. We needed to put that out, and we'll continue to remind you as much as possible, because it's a major transit route and corridor for the people of Lagos and Nigeria.
Yeah. So 24-hour window, please be mindful. You can still apply that route from now till 12 noon, but then from 12 noon up until 12 noon tomorrow, no way.
No way.
And you know the other alternative routes, Ikorodu Road, all through Western Avenue, down, and then you connect... is it Carter Bridge now?
Yeah, Carter Bridge.
And then the other alternative routes are available for you. But the important thing is to be civil at this time, be patient on the roads. We'll all get to our destination.
We're going to put that information out on our social media handles so that our job is a community show. So we're trying to make sure that you get informed as much as possible. So don't forget, don't go there after 12. Find alternative route. If you can, also use the waterways is an option if you can.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of that, that's the number 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. You can also send us all your contributions, your comments, maybe your own rap verse to our social media handles. You can post it to us on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram. We'll be willing to take your comments. And of course, that number is showing on your screen where you can send in your compelling videos. We'll authenticate them and we'll put them out. And also, right after now, we'll be bringing you the top stories on the morning brief. It's your perfect day starter. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the morning brief. Time now for your top stories. And starting in Abuja, in what appears an anticlimax happening barely hours after taking its dispute with the government to streets across the country, the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC on Tuesday evening suspended its action, which was expected to enter its second day today. The union explained in a statement that the decision followed a review of the first day nationwide action, which the NLC leadership says achieved the objectives it set out to achieve. The statement signed by the NLC president and acting general secretary, however, notes that leaders of the union at state and national chapters will continue the action today with news conferences. It further notes that the NLC has decided to extend its initial one-week ultimatum, which was intended to expire by March the 3rd, to March the 13th to enable government implement all agreements reached on October the 2nd, 2023. And still with the protest, the NLC had earlier on Tuesday made good its plan to stage a nationwide protest over the high cost of living in the country, as well as unresolved disagreements with the federal government. In Abuja, the union led hundreds of protesters in a march to the National Assembly, where they called on the government to immediately implement policies that will ease the suffering of the people.
insecurity everywhere, that there is unemployment everywhere, that the wage is insufficient.
I want to assure you that this letter will be discussed immediately at the plenary session. The leadership of the National Assembly feels what you feel. You will see our reaction.
And as the NLC protests went on across the country, a pro-government group also staged a counter-protest in Abuja. The group, which converged on the Unity Fountain before marching to the National Assembly, describes the protests by the NLC as unnecessary and asked that the workers' union engage in dialogue with the government. The group also accused those they describe as fuel subsidy cabals of sponsoring protests against the government.
We are peaceful protesters. We have no reason whatsoever to attack anybody. We only implore them earnestly to explore the path of dialogue. Coming out on the street is not the best way. But since they come out with it, we are coming out to express ourselves, to enlighten and explain the critical situation happening to the country to Nigerian people. We are peace-loving people. We have no reason whatsoever to go into confrontation with anybody for any reason.
The Nigerian people and the Labour Congress should go back and sleep and sit down, because this country belongs to all of us. As they have right to protest, equally we have right to protest as a citizen of Federal Republic of Nigeria. So everybody should withdraw his sword. Nigeria is made for all of us. It's not only made for NLC. Nigeria is not made for TUC. Nigeria is made for Nigerian people. If anybody make an attempt to bring this government down, it's not bringing the government down, it's bringing Nigeria down. I will not allow that.
And amid the wave of protests, the federal government appears to be adopting the diplomatic approach to managing its relations with labor. This is as the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Mrs. Nkiruka Onyejocha, is asking Nigerians to remain steadfast and trust the President Tinubu-led administration to take the country out of its current condition. The minister also says the federal government has kept a near-perfect scorecard on its part with regards to the 15-point memorandum of understanding reached with organized labor in October last year. She spoke on our political program, Politics Today. And while the protests held sway on the streets, major economic decisions were being taken at the CBN headquarters in Abuja as the Apex Bank's Monetary Policy Committee raised monetary policy rate MPR by 400 basis points to 22.75% from 18.75%. This was announced by the CBN Governor, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, at the end of the first monetary policy meeting in 2024. The MPC also raised the cash reserve ratio CRR to 45%, while leaving liquidity ratio unchanged at 30%.
Its first meeting of the year on the 26th and 27th of February 2024 to decide on the appropriate course of monetary policy going forward. All 12 members of the committee attended the meeting. Decisions of the MPC. The committee decided to further tighten monetary policy as follows. 1, raise the MPR by 400 basis points to 22.75 from 18.75%. Adjust the asymmetric corridor around the MPR to plus 100 to minus 700 from plus 100 to minus 300 basis points. Raise the cash reserve ratio from 32.5% to 45%. retain the liquidity ratio at 30%. In the opinion of the committee, the options available for decision was to either hold or hike the policy rate to offset the persistent inflationary pressures. Some of these reforms include the unification of the foreign exchange market, promotion of a willing buyer and willing seller market, removal of all limits on margins for IMTO remittances, introduction of a two-way quote system, and the broad reforms in the BDC segment of the market to restore stability, enhance transparency, boost supply, and promote price discovery in the Nigeria Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM.
In the meantime, a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007 to strengthen the bank has scaled second reading. The bill proposes an amendment to provide a single non-renewal term of 6 years for the governor and the deputy governors of the Apex Bank. During the debate on the bill, sponsored by Senator Abiru Adetokunbo of Lagos East, the lawmakers insisted on 5-year non-renewable tenure for the CBN governor. And in other stories, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has debunked a news report of a coup scare in the country, describing the report as false and heinous act of disinformation. The minister, in a statement, notes that the government would neither be distracted nor intimidated into abandoning the ongoing reforms aimed at rejuvenating the economy and creating a pathway of prosperity for the citizenry. And on a cheery note, the police in the Federal Capital Territory has announced the arrest of Samaila Wakil Fafa, also known as Habu Ibrahim, the second of 2 wanted kidnappers on whom the FCT minister had placed a 20 million naira bounty. In a statement, the FCT police spokesperson SP Josephine Ade explains that the kidnapper was arrested on February the 24th, 2024, after operatives acting on credible intelligence stormed Sardauna Forest in Toto local government area of Nasarawa State. The FCT minister had on Wednesday, February the 14th, placed a 20 million naira bounty on 2 wanted bandits, Dahiru Adamu and Habu Ibrahim, and they were said to have been terrorizing the nation's capital. And we hope that the security operatives are able to get the rest. And outside our shores, U.S. President Joe Biden says he hopes to achieve a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza by Monday. His comments come amid reports of some progress in indirect negotiations involving Israeli and Hamas officials. It would involve aid deliveries to Gaza and the release of more hostages taken during the October 7 Hamas attacks. Israel has not commented, and Hamas officials have indicated that both sides are not as close to a ceasefire deal as Mr. Biden has suggested. We'll see how that goes. Qatar, which has been mediating in the talks alongside Egypt, said there was no deal to announce yet. And as we coast home, finally, it's time for sports. It's official. Reigning African women's champion of South Africa have set up a 2024 Olympic qualifier clash against 9-time African champions, the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Bayana defeated Tanzania in the return leg of the qualifying fixture 1-0 in Johannesburg to advance 4-0 on aggregate, having won the first leg 3-0. Both sides will meet in April for the final round of qualifiers. South Africa is chasing the first Olympic ticket since Rio 2016, while the Super Falcons are targeting their first in 16 years. So Jeffrey joins me now as we take a look at some of the big stories making headlines and review, of course, some of your contributions.
Absolutely.
To those stories.
That exchange is important.
Very critical at this time.
Okay.
So Jeffrey, what perhaps made an impression on you?
I think the one that made impression, that caught my attention the most was the tightening of all the numbers by the CBN, the monetary policy. And it came out yesterday, about 4% hike in the interest rate from 18.75 to about 22. And now even the cash reserve ratio, all of that is because They just want to slow down this, whether it's called hyperinflation, stagflation, runaway inflation. The inflation literally is on steroids. So the monetary policy guys are just trying to see what they can do to taper this down as much as possible. So the simple gimmick here is slow down growth, reduce spending power. When you increase this interest rate, it will affect businesses because borrowing money is now going to be higher. And that means the producers and sellers and suppliers will increase their prices. Increasing their prices, a couple of people may not be able to buy. So that kind of controls all of that. So it depends on what the diagnostics was that will decide how they are approaching this in terms of the model to use to control inflation, whether it's cost push or demand pull or a hybrid of both or something unique out of the box. Money supply is also another factor, so they are trying to mop up liquidity as much as possible. So all of this, let's see how it plays out. He has an ambitious dream. He has an ambitious dream of bringing it down from 30 to 21. It's a tall order, but let's see how that plays out. So,
well, you know, Jeffrey, indeed, it's true that, you know, each time the CBN does this, it crowds out, you know, the loan space, particularly for businesses who seek to expand. But I'm just wondering how the 75 billion naira credit that the government announced, you know, at the onset of its administration to big businesses and the loan to nano businesses, how it would help, you know, in spite of this tightening of monetary policy. Well,
let's see how it plays out. Some people say it may not move a needle, may be able to move some needle, I don't know. But let's find out what you are saying. So on X, NLC protest happened yesterday. By this morning, they said they are not doing it again in Nigerian parlance. So let's see what you are saying. Young says we can end the hunger, we can end the corruption. The citizens of Nigeria deserve better. Okay?
Yeah, we hope so, but we do deserve better. Nasiru Salisu Funtua says, let Nigerians breathe. Hashtag end hunger protest. Hashtag NLC protest. Hashtag FGN. Enough is enough.
All right, Abidoye Ibokun says no to hunger, no to corruption, no to insecurity, no to banditry, no to inflation. So just in line with the protest, they are screaming their own, more like their own inscription with loads of hashtag enough is enough and hunger protest. Call out the next.
And Atlantis Gem says, this is good. I hope that everything goes in an orderly manner. People should have unrestricted access to their representatives.
Exactly. This is coming from Olubumi Babajide. Says, it is good the NLC are protesting all, that's nationwide. There is hunger all over Nigeria.
Yeah, indeed. Aminu Yusuf Aliyu says, protest all over the country. A big effort though. Hashtag NLC protest. The question is, what will be the result of
exactly.
the protest?
Dr. Bature says, the state of the nation is everyone's job. Kudos to the police for joining the protest. Well, they didn't join per se. They were just protecting the people. The country is ours, and we can't sit on the fence anymore. The poor and breathing, the suffocation is too much.
Well, you're also talking about other subjects this morning. This one is about police distribution of water.
Yes, part of the protest. It happened in Lagos. So that's the video.
Yeah.
This happened, sorry, Bukola, this happened in Lagos. So it was quite interesting to see how the police is not only protecting the people who are demonstrating and demanding better welfare from the government, they're also
aiding a protest. And by the way, this would be a departure from the norm of what we know the police force to be. So this is an interesting development, by the way. What do you think? Of course, we're taking some of your reactions. And the first one is from MJ. MJ says, this is one of the smartest moves I've seen by this administration. Just do anything to douse the tension. They know if this is not well handled, it can spiral into something way beyond what they can handle. Pressure, Tiwa. Well, that's to say that there's pressure on the administration now.
The pressure is
on everyone.
This one says, Chud Moss says, I like this. I like this. This will surely deter troublemakers from causing much or any troubles. Nice initiative. At the end of the day, protest is a human right and not a crime. Plus, police are also hungry. Yeah, of course, they're human beings as well.
Well, this one is from Tom's Boy on Point, and he says, first time in history, Nigeria police are doing what marvels me. Thanks to Area F Commander for this great effort. Absolutely.
That's more like what we call community police. Just relate to the people. This is Jeremiah. That's your name. Police self, no C salary. You won't make it the make it day against protesters care. Now, all of us, they on life support for this country, don't play. Okay, how do I interpret that? More like we're all in this together. So police have to do what they have to do to support the protesters. That's the way I can interpret that. Bukola.
Well, we can't verify that the police have not received their salaries.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't verify that
can't
one.
Verify that.
But this one is from Ajao Olumota. I hope I got that correctly. And they say, people need to begin to see from the positive side, though. The change begins with that. Yeah, each one, reach one.
Okay, this is from the Fine Old Soul. That's the handle. This is police indirectly joining the protest, and they meet everybody.
Well, I'm trying to say that it's another way of the police participating in the protest, a subtle one.
Yeah,
this one is
maybe we'll go to the next because of time.
Okay.
The $26 billion that has passed through Binance Nigeria from sources and users who we cannot adequately identify. That's a statement from the CBN governor yesterday talking about, you know, they're trying to do all they can to control the FX market. So he made that statement and Nigerians are reacting.
Yeah.
This one is saying the Nigerian economy stands, Frank Akiba says the Nigerian economy stands to gain so much via collaborations here. Call the necessary stakeholders and sit down over a table. It's still not too late.
Yeah, a good approach if you ask me. Ola of Lagos says, just make it possible for us to deposit and withdraw from Binance without going through P2P. That would be person to person, I believe. That way you can track and gain control of the funds that are being moved. You know, there's more motivation that the CBN has to do to encourage people to pass through official channels. Okay,
this person is Folukam says, I've worked in 2 countries over the past 2 years and I use Binance in all of these countries. Not one of them has ever blamed Binance for their woes. Wrap it up, bro. The rates on Binance is only a reflection of your FX market, not the other way around, okay? Everybody has their own, you know, argument about this whole
Do we have more time to take?
We can take just two more.
Just 2 more? This one is from Adlad, and he or they say no Binance user can trace without NIN or BVN verification. The narration of they can't be identified is totally not accurate and not acceptable.
Well, at the end of the day, what we're trying to, we're hoping that all of this would happen, like the economy has to, you know, has to get better. I don't want to use more technical terms now. The economy just has to get better. What people want to see, they want to see their wages increase. They want to see prices come down. They want to meet somewhere. The economy doesn't have to wipe out the middle class, so that getting rich is not so much of a tall order. You don't have rich and poor. So, well, you've been saying a lot, and we will switch gears after now to start a conversation about what's been going on across the country. But that's all we have for you on this particular segment, where we've been tracking your thoughts on X as well as on WhatsApp. Join us on the other side of the program.
We'll be right back.
If you plant a seed, it will get rotten before it germinates and become fruit or become something that you'll be able to use. Nigeria, our government is on planting season, and Nigerians have to be fair to have patience for this seed that we are planted to germinate.
Have you performed on the MOU? There are 15 items of the MOU.
Absolutely. If you go to number 13 of that agreement, you will see that it says all parties commit to henceforth abide by dictates of social dialogue in all our future engagements. It's one of the agreements that Labour is not talking about. Organized Labour says we should keep this agreement. That is no more about this agreement. That they had over the weekend have been reeling out what we've done and what we've not done, and we said we've done virtually all. And I believe that, as far as I'm concerned, we've done almost all the things in this agreement.
How many percentage would you say you've done?
I would say 90%.
Of everything?
Yes.
Welcome back. It's now time to switch gears. We're expecting that today the Labour Congress, Nigeria Labour Congress, will continue their protest. But hey, just between yesterday's protest and midnight, there was a release, a statement saying, having been successful on the first day, they want to give the government a bit of chance, and they also give out an ultimatum and all of that. There were details in that particular statement. So some people are wondering what really happened in between yesterday and today, which is why we're going to have this conversation. The hunger, has it gone? Or was there a proposal that is going to get better? Or did government meet any of their demands? Because they constantly say the demands have not been met, and the government is saying 90% have been met. So we need to make sense of what is going on between Labour and government as far as this whole protest is concerned. That's why we're being joined on the program by the head international relations, Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Uche Naekwe, joins us from our Abuja studio. Welcome to the program, Mr. Ekwe.
Morning, thank you.
So help us understand what happened in detail, if possible, between yesterday and today. We saw this statement, but Nigerians are curious to find out maybe a little bit more why some people say Labour had to back out, which is sometimes why some people, have issues with Labour.
Well, usually, as I said, I keep saying, usually very interesting managing what people are saying. Bearing in mind that many people say come from their own perspective. But for us, the key thing is that we knew we have gotten to a point in this country where the hashtag "let the people breathe" had become real. And that we felt that government seems adamant or seems not to totally appreciate the level of pains and the level of pressure the ordinary Nigerian is bearing. And we felt that we needed to call their attention, draw their attention to the reality of this level of pains that's going on. We've made attempts to communicate and use dialogue to see that the government is paying more serious attention to these challenges. But as usual, those letters were not receiving any serious attention. And it's so painful that government after government must wait until there is such a pressure before taking serious or paying serious attention to challenges. Now, it was until the date of the protest was getting close that serious discussions started. And naturally, one would have expected that after writing several letters and communication to government, that the engagements would have started. And those engagements will be allowing people to bring up suggestions on the ways to deal with some of the challenges that is facing us. That wouldn't happen until the system begin to see that there will be a protest, rally, or strike. On our own part, we refuse to be deterred. Like I said, we are focused on what we want to achieve. I said earlier in this program that the NLC is not interested in strike, which would disrupt the system, or protest. But we are interested that this system must address the challenges of the Nigerian people by doing all that it should do to stabilize or stop the galloping inflation, make sure that food gets to a rate that is affordable to the ordinary Nigerian. We are in no doubt that disrupting the running of the economy will not be the ultimate way to go. But when we are pushed to do that as the only way to call the attention of the system to listen, we will do that. And that is what we try to do. And that's what guides how long and how we deal with our ultimatums. So, having analyzed that there seems to be more commitment in engagement and discussions from the side of government, and they haven't appealed that they will need some, using our own hashtag now, that we should give them some breathing space to show that they are out to deal with issues at stake. We met after the protests of yesterday, our National Executive Council, and reviewed what have happened, and now felt it's okay. Of course, people have doubts, and yes, they have reasons to doubt that the government is sincere, taking into cognizance what have happened in the past. Those doubts were there, but we said, okay, this protest is a warning. It's not even the major program we have. So we said, okay, having sent the warning and they having sought for time, we agreed. We give you the time, but if by 13th of March, we've not seen any significant change or difference, we will now have no recourse, and that will also give opportunity to those who feel that the NLC enjoy having strike of protest to know that we are not, and that we are being pushed to go the extra mile.
If I could quickly follow up with that, you have said that Nigerians have good reason to doubt because of the past trajectory of labor with negotiations. In relation to that, if we recall the meeting that the leadership of the main organs had with the federal government about 48 hours ago, it was an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. While it is only natural that a degree of civility is expected on the path of both leaderships, it's instructive to also tie it to this sudden, what Nigerians would call sudden, short-lived protest by NLC. What would you say, how would you address Nigerians who, as a result of this, have, just given up on the representation of the NLC and the TUC to further their interests amid this continuing hardship?
Well, these things are interesting. You say the warmth and camaraderie. Where did you see the warmth and camaraderie? You are talking at the point people have come out of negotiation. In the negotiation room, I can assure you there was no warmth. It is not correct, and it's not good for me to start letting you know the level of anger that went in during the negotiations. I could remember some of your colleagues began to have a different attitude. Those who were privileged. In one of the meetings, we thought that we didn't need to excuse the press in one of the struggles and debates over fuel issues. When they participated in that meeting, I could remember those meetings lasted to about 2 a.m. some of your colleagues who participated in that meeting, the attitude became different because they realized that the face you see after the negotiation is different from what happens at the negotiating table. As a matter of fact, the level of anger, but you see, it is not coming to show the people that were angry during the negotiation. It's about putting the facts on the table. And when I talk about doubt, the people who are raising the doubt is the NLC leadership on their own. You know, and you have, in the last program I attended, played the voice popular. And you can see the balance of people who feel that NLC is doing too much strike. So, for us, I keep saying we understand that in a situation of frustration, that the level Nigerians have gotten, not to trust anybody is expected. But on our own part, having elected to put ourselves forward to do this job, we appreciate fully the hazard of the mistrust and the challenges that will come. But also we remain focused because we know, comrade, because you are basically a worker, we know clearly that what is at stake here is the life of families.
Right.
Because when people don't have food or can't afford their hospital bills, it's life of people that is at stake.
Okay,
and we know that that's not something anybody will be joking about.
Comrade Eko, if I could just come in quickly, quite a number of points raised. We had a conversation with one of the conveners of a protest. I think this was in Edo State, I think a civil society organization, different from the NLC. And we asked what their thought is about what NLC is doing, if they think it essentially covers what their own agitations are. But then the position, I'll just paraphrase, is that, well, the NLC really is doing this for workers, Nigeria Labour Congress, and that's why they had to also carry out their own protests. And I'm sure you've seen other protests across the country, even before the NLC it did its own protest. So the question then arose that how overreaching will be Labour's protests really when workers is just a little chunk of the Nigerian population. There are other people that are in the SME sector, even the unemployed and the rest. So that question has come up yet again, and I'm sure you've had to speak to that. But on the other hand, is what the minister said yesterday, that 90% of your demands have been sorted out. I know that we reeled out those, the items on that agreement last time we had you on the show, and majority of them, according to you, had not even been resolved. Only a few had been done. In fact, the ones that were done late, if you recall that interview. So is that to say that there's been an update and 90% has been sorted, or we're missing something here?
Well, let me start from the first question. Fortunately, you have those agreements, and we have discussed it. Looking through those agreements, you can't, in all honesty, say that Labour, NLC, have only dealt with the workers' demand. You have it. It's so broad. It covers the SMEs. It covers what will affect the households. And this protest, you can see, was never, and it's not, about worker specific. It is about Nigerian specific. We, the workers themselves, found themselves inside of it, as Nigerians too. We have maintained that this protest is totally about drawing attention to the level of hardship that have degenerated. In fact, when we are holding our meeting, our own internal meeting, and having a debate and update on cost of living, and I was having a chat with a banker on something. And the banker was saying, look, comrade, I said something about hardship, and you seem to send an emoji that is like you are smiling. And this matter is not a smiling matter because I cannot afford to buy Indomie for my children. And this is a banker talking about that. And so for us, that's the focus of this protest. That things have gotten to the point that families can hardly eat food. And that's the major plank of this. And we've refused cautiously to be drawn into the debate of what has been implemented out of the 16-point agreement. Because we know that is what we are going to engage completely in the next, between now and 13th of March. But not seeming not to respond at all to the claim of the minister. 90%. And I had the minister talk about the 13th point in that program, which is social dialogue. You know what got us to this point? Is that social dialogue had not been respected. It only came back only when we have issued a threat. The reaction of the government most times only comes only when there is threat. And that's why we hope. That's why I say that even in our own discussion, people were of the view, do we have any basis to trust that they will go into dialogue, which is the 13th in that program, and we say, we give the benefit of doubt based on the appeal that this could be done. But I wonder what could be 90% when one of the big challenges of the present economic situation is the cost of movement. That is the transportation. And the CNG and running out of buses is one thing that can make a whole world of this. In fact,
Mr. Ekwe,
the cost of transportation.
If I'm about to, Mr. Ekwe, just because you're landing on that thought, and I needed to add this because of time. We're racing against time. So what is urgent for the labor union? What is urgent? Is it increment in salary? How much is labor looking at? Is it rolling out of CNG buses? What exactly is urgent that maybe was whispered between yesterday and today that maybe the federal government had mentioned that the labor now said, okay, if that is it, we'll call off this protest and see how you react between now and 13.
Basically, part of what is very urgent is bringing down the cost of food. Government have said that they are going to go into the strategic grain reserve, move out food, which they believe will drop down the price of essential commodities like rice and other food items, maize, millet. It is urgent that those strategic reserves be released to push down the price of food. Very, very urgent. On the issue of increment of salary, what needs to be done is to speed up the negotiation. Yes, the committee has been set up, but it's not about setting up the committee to negotiate minimum wage. It is at that level that every discussion about what NLC is putting in, but that is concluded with speed. Two, that the implementation of the salary award, the wage award, not salary award, the wage award should be scaled down to state and local governments, which has not happened. And pressure put on the private sector to implement. Those implementation has not happened at the state level, at the local government level, these are urgent. Yes, the rolling out of buses and the CNG is urgent because pushing down the cost of movement, transportation, is critical. So pushing down the cost. All the discussion and everything the CBN is talking about, we need to see practically that the rush, the total collapse that we are witnessing in the part of Naira is redressed as quickly as possible, because it is not acceptable that Naira should be the weakest currency in the entire West African sub-region. These are urgent, and things need to be done to deal with them.
So Mr. Ekwe, do you see this happening between now and the 13th?
Well, there are things that can happen. It doesn't take 100 days to make sure that releases from the strategic grain reserve gets out to the street. It doesn't need 100 days for us to start seeing that our currency is gaining strength, not just against the dollar, but even against the currencies within our surrounding. This could be done within the time.
Well, Mr. Ekwe, while 40,000 tons of grains has been described as grossly inadequate to meet the hunger needs of the nation and to reduce the price of cost of commodities, what may be of bigger concern to Nigerians and will come as a relief would be the release of the implementation of the CNG program by the federal government. From the meeting that leadership of Labour has had with the federal government in the last 48 hours, what can you tell Nigerians about the status of the implementation of that program?
Well, the government on this part have claimed that they had a bit of hitches in the releasing of the buses and the implementation of the CNG. If you notice, I've continuously hammered, even in the last discussion, the conversation we held here, I was reiterating the position of the NLC, being upbeat that whatever it needs to be done in getting the CNG rolled out, the buses, and even the conversion, we have been upbeat on it. And we took it to the negotiation, and the government have appealed, and now have started giving what looks like a strong commitment to implementing it. We will be falling short if they say that the ability to do that is that we suspend action to enable the environment to do it. We will be falling short if we now got ourselves to be accused that we refuse to allow the enabling environment to get this done. And that's what the window period have provided now.
Well, just to take a few comments that we're getting on this one, and this is from some of our viewers. I just want to bring them in, comrade. This says, Comrade Mohammed Sani from Federal University of Wukari, Taraba State. And the question is essentially, who do we trust now? NLC, that is our last option, or the government that constantly denies its promises? So that's from a comrade colleague, I must say, Comrade Abubakar of Federal University of Wukari, Taraba State. And the second one, if you could just take them quickly, is from Phillips, says, whatever government has said was not said yesterday. Call off a planned 2-day strike after 1-day call to question the intention of NLC in the first place. So I think he's saying that the calling off of the protest rather causes him to question the intention. And he says, I hope everyone is not playing politics with the citizens' predicament. So those are some of the comments coming in, and I think they reflect what we've also talked about, some of the skepticism that the people have shared. So you might want to respond to that. We have just less than 30 seconds to wind down. But also just to say, are you saying the minister was not correct to have said 90% has been achieved?
Even you have said that.
I have not said
Even
that.
you have
I'm
said that
asking you,
90% have not been achieved. Because when you said, when we now were discussing the CNG and the role it could play, that alone have said that 90% have not been achieved. And again, when I have talked about that the local governments and states have not implemented the wage award, it also points to that have not happened. On the doubt, I have continually said that the point and the level of pressure in the society, it will be out of place not to expect that the people will find it difficult to have trust.
I know that.
But having
you've
said
made
that,
reference to that comment.
I also,
so
having said that,
pardon me, if you said
but having said
90%
that,
is not the case, pardon me, we're about to wind down, but just to put this on record, if you say it's not 90%, is it 50%? Is it 40%? What is it on your side?
An average.
Our average is about 50%. And also, let me put it, because that question have come up. You see, people doubted that we wouldn't even do a protest at all, and that the protest will not be successful. Now, so having been successful, and now people are doubting why one day. Like I said, we expect all that, but we are focused.
All right.
The percentage for us is not anything beyond 50%. And all this we are going to deal with between now and 13th March.
All right. Comrade, we want to thank you for coming on the program. We'll keep tab on what's going on between the federal government and, of course, the organized labor. Comrade Uche Naikwe, the head international relations, Nigeria Labor Congress. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, on a closing note, I would have also have loved to hear part of that rap from Bukola.
Just stay tuned. Towards the end of the show, she's going to do it again. I like the lighter mood. Thank you so much.
You can play back, Comrade.
Thank you so much. Comrade, thank you so much for coming on the program. Well, guys, exactly what it is. So he said 50%. The government has said two versions. The Honorable Minister for Information and Information said 80%. Minister of Labor said 90%. So government should agree on the percentage. At least let's know what to hold and who to hold for what. But that conversation continues. We'll now take a break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to other issues, which has to do with the Oronsaye report. What exactly is it all about? And the details will bring you on the show. Join us again.
administration has taken a very bold step towards implementation on aspects of the Oronsaye panel report, which speaks to mergers, subsuming, scrapping, and relocation of parastatals, agencies, and commissions of federal government. This is in line with the need to reduce cost of governance and ensure that we have streamlined efficiency across the governance value chain. For agencies that are required to be merged, I'll take it. National Agency for Control of AIDS, HIV/AIDS, NACA, to be merged with the Center for Disease Control in the Federal Ministry of Health. National Emergency Management Agency to be merged with the National Commission for Refugee Migration and Internally Displaced Persons. The Directorate of Technical Cooperation in Africa to be merged with the Directorate of Technical Aid and to function as a department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This compact with Nigeria Servicom to be subsumed to function as a department under the Bureau for Public Service Reform. The Border Communities Development Agency to be subsumed to function as a department under the National Boundary Commission. The National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission to be subsumed into the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission. The National Blood Service Commission to be converted into an agency and relocated to the Federal Ministry of Health. The Nigerian Diaspora Commission to be converted into an agency and to be relocated to the Federal Ministry of Finance.
You know, every other day we always say Nigeria is a rich nation, but then we have such a huge burden of the poor and vulnerable, millions of people, and that is a constant. So it's a no-brainer when we say we need to cut the cost of governance, we need to cut our coat according to our material, whichever way the saying goes. So it was a bit cheery to hear that the FEC had approved some partial implementation of that Oronsaye report since 2012. It's taken 12 years to get to this point. But let's get even deeper into this conversation. It concerns you and I, whether you're young or old. This conversation around governance and the cost of it concerns you and I. And we'll be speaking with an agency that is also central to the implementation of this report. We're joined on the program by the Director General of the Bureau of Public Sector Reforms, Dr. Dasuki Arabi, joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, DG.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be around you.
Absolutely. I know a lot of work has been done on this Oronsaye report from 2012, but you play a vital role. You're in that committee that has 12 weeks to implement some of these, points that was raised by the president's aide there. Interestingly, your name is also mentioned, and that's the BPSR is also mentioned in some of those reforms. What Servicom is meant to be subsumed under BPSR. But I'd like you to begin on this note, Dr. Arabi. There are a lot of people who are skeptical about this because the Jonathan administration picked it up, didn't implement it. In fact, the Jonathan administration essentially was vital to this, but the Buhari government also picked this up. Nothing came out. We only saw committees and white paper. And yet again, the Tinubu government is doing the same. Is this going to really happen in 12 weeks, Dr. Arabi?
Thank you very much. Let me take you back to history. Why was the Oronsaye Committee constituted in the first place? It was constituted in response to the global call for change and the need for nations to respond to socio-economic problems all over the world. Now, the report or the committee was set up to rejig the public service, to put the position of MDAs in their proper place so that we'll have more efficient ministries, departments, and agencies of government. So I want to clear this notion of people that think the Oronsaye Committee is just out to reduce the size of ministries and get people out of their jobs. In the case of implementation, we are very glad that the president has taken this bold decision to implement this report after many years. But as you said, know that nothing has been done about it. Actually, truly, there were delays in implementation. The three last committees that were reconstituted by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, were basically aimed out to look at agencies that were created after Oronsaye report. Now, with that report, with that work that was done, we had an updated version of the Oronsaye report, which His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved for implementation. A committee has been constituted. You had the advisor of the president giving some highlights of it. I'm confident that that report will be implemented. However, implementation, as we have said in the various reports and the committees that we have worked, is not going to be done in such a way that it was done in 2005, 6, and 7 when civil servants were right-sized. The government has learned quite a lot of things out of it, and one of the things that we need to do as we move forward is to have an effective strategy to communicate with the citizens, labor, public, other sectors of government, including the development partners who are interested parties in this activity and interested parties in Nigeria. Another key player that is being considered for active participation in this process is the legislative arm of government. Of course, you know, some of the agencies to be merged or scrapped have laws backing them. So government is going to get back to them. And that is why I have, over the years, led several delegations to the legislative arm of government to build this bridge between executive and legislature, specifically to address this. And I want to inform you and Nigerians that the legislative arm is working with us closely, and they have even gone forward to create a committee in the House of Reps saddled with oversight of reforms and institutional changes within the public service. So I'm confident it's going to be implemented.
All right, I wanted to go to, Doctor, I wanted to go to a particular, excuse me, a particular detail, because there are so many things we need to find out as far as this Oronsaye report is concerned. We're hoping that the government will walk the talk as you promised, and we're also looking at how much will be saved at the end of the day. Some people did calculations and say it's not anything beyond maybe 300 billion naira annually and all of that. So, but I wanted to zoom in on a particular item on that report, which is the 39th item that has to do with the Ministry of Aviation, and get your take whether this is part of the way to go or it is overreaching, because we're going to go item by item. I guess that's what your committee would do. But the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, the recommendation by the committee says the trial of these agencies, NAMA, NCA, NIMET, and all of that, should be merged into one body called the Federal Civil Aviation Authority. Government accepted that recommendation. Say government accepts from the white paper, but I know that Center for Social Justice does not accept that position because of the rating and all of that. I'm asking this, will this be part of the things you look at, so cut costs or otherwise, or was it going to retain it? I'm being specific now to specific sectors.
Well, thank you very much for that question. You know, we have 4 reports now. The main Oronsaye report, Goni Aji report, Amapepo report, Ebele Okeke report. Now, the announcement that was made by the Federal Executive Council through the advisor to the president has not given us full details of what is going to happen around the recommendations made. But I'm sure whatever is stated in the report that has been considered by the Federal Executive Council is going to be implemented. Now, let me guide us and all of us that these are not decisions that were taken just overnight. They are decisions that were taken after a lot of consultations have been done. In any case, I don't want to speak for the committee that is going to be inaugurated, but I want Nigerians to be confident that the committee is going to look at things objectively and implement decisions in the best interests of our country, Nigeria.
DJ, I'd like you to speak to a related issue. 2 issues now from the announcement of the federal government's decision. Yesterday, we spoke with a member of the civil society, which is in the vanguard of the advocacy for the implementation of the Oronsaye report. And they say that, look, the agencies that really, would go a long way in cutting cost of governance are not listed in the announcement made by the federal government. And we can look at, why we have the ICPC and the EFCC, for instance. So if you look at those agencies and the ones mentioned by Jeffrey that are not listed, how far would this really go if it were implemented? And how much really will this would the federal government be saving from this exercise? So those two issues, if you could speak to them, DG.
Well, thank you very much. We cannot assess at this point how much will be saved because we don't have, the committee has not been inaugurated. We don't have the approvals of the Federal Executive Council to us. Possibly after the committee has been inaugurated, we'll have those details. And the comments that people are making around which agency is going to save money for Nigeria, well, that is up to them. The committee has worked diligently for the last 3 committees, worked for almost 6 weeks on each side of the committee, and we have looked at the various issues concerning reducing cost of governance. An agency may look very small or tiny in the face of people that are outside, but when you look at their budget, you know that it's mighty, small in size but mighty in budgetary allocation and spendings. So the assurance we are giving the civil society is Bureau of Public Service Reforms, as a member of the Committee on Open Government Partnership, will collaborate, will work with them. And if you recall what the advisor said, that as a first step, they are implementing this. Oronsaye is gone beyond a scrapping margin of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. It has called for restructuring of ministries and agencies. It has called for management and staff audit of the entire federal public service. It has called for restructuring of these of some key ministries of government. So something positive is going to come. My message to Nigerians is let them be patient, let them allow the task team to be inaugurated, and something positive is going to come out of this wonderful work. Recall, my sister, that we have been driving this exercise for many years. So everybody is anxious, is happy that something positive is going to come out of it. At the end of all this work that we are doing, we're urging Nigerians to consider Nigeria first before themselves.
So quite a number of issues raised, and I think this, for some, they think it's a distraction, by the way, because they saw that Labour was going to protest, and just the night before the protest, this announcement was made. So naturally, there were a lot of people who were skeptical, thinking, is this government trying to distract us from the issues? But I'd like you to speak to this point that has also been raised. So this report was ready in 2012. As of 2012, even the mobile phones that came out then are no more in use now. The naira to the dollar at that time was 150. Now it is, almost 2,000 naira. But the point I'm trying to make is things have since changed. Even a child at that point is probably done with university now. Some of them have gotten married. So things have since changed. And people have said the recommendations from that report may just be outdated. So what do you say to people who think we are implementing 2012 in 2024 when the realities have changed since then?
Well, thank you very much. Government had taken note of those concerns, and that was why the 3 committees, Goni Aji Committee, Amapepu Committee, Ebele Okeke committees were set up. And they were basically set up to, 1, look at the agencies that were created after the Oronsaye report was submitted. Secondly, to look at those decisions of Oronsaye that were taken as at that time and get them updated vis-a-vis the long period it has taken for us to implement. And I want to inform Nigerians that some aspects of the report, even before this time, are being implemented. Now, example, when you take the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit that was under EFCC, about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it became an office on its own. And the privatization of River Basin Development Authorities was part of the recommendations of Oronsaye. Some aspects of this have been done. Quite a number of things have been done. When you look at the removal of some regulatory agencies out of national budget, a Minister of Finance had driven this last year into this year. So the 3 committees updated the Oronsaye report, and that is what is going to be implemented by government. So it's not really obsolete, it's up to date. You know, and when you talk about disruption, and labor, we have learned, and this is learning not out of the books, out of experience. Driving right-sizing in 2005, 6, and 7, we had problems because the labor, trade unions, the legislative arm, citizens were not carried alone. I'm assuring you that the committee is going to take the interests of everybody, carry everybody around to drive this process. Now, the issue of disruption, I don't know whether, I'm not a politician, unfortunately for me, but I don't know whether it was a strategy to do that. But you know, the advisor to the president did not say it's going to be implemented 27 and 28. It just says it has been approved and a committee has been constituted. So implementation and work will start after inauguration. So I think there are 2 different things.
So DG, one of the things that is also of concern is how this will work out eventually, how things will play out in terms of personnel. Because if you look at the intent, besides cutting costs, it's also to streamline efficiency and to make government more functional. And given the bureaucracy, the bulk of bureaucracy that we see within government entities, these same people that government has said will not lose their job will now either be rotated, redeployed, and all of that movement. What attitudinal change are we expecting within that space? Because if it's just changing and reducing and subsuming and all of this movement, and the attitude remains the same, this aspiration for efficiency is going to be a far cry.
Thank you very much. Recall that we have the National Strategy on Public Service Reforms, and Pillar 4 of that strategy is looking at cultural reorientation of the attitude of public servants. And the FSIP strategy that is driven by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation is also looking at that issue of attitudinal change to work by Nigerians. We are always passing this message through. Let's be happy and glad that government has picked us out of 215 million to work for citizens of Nigeria. So that enough should make us to be patriotic, to deliver the goods expected out of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. In terms of efficiency, we have been driving a lot of reforms and changes within the public service that are all aimed at improving the efficiency of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Well, some of us may, from outside the service, may feel that we have not gone where we should be. But I'm confident in telling you that if you look at the public service 30 years ago and what it is today, we have really changed, we have improved, and we're improving. Recall that Nigeria has an approved e-government master plan, which is looking at digitalizing the work process within the public service. Also, we have approved adoption of blockchain technology in public service delivery. Now, digitalization of work process is going to improve efficiency of ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Part of the reforms that we've implemented is opening the system so that civil society groups like SERAP and others will be able to work with us, charge us, ask us questions, and demand for excellence in service delivery. The Bureau of Public Service Reforms is working with quite a number of civil society groups that are helping us to jig out excellent policy briefs that government is looking at. And I don't think this issue is one of the renewed hope agenda is basically all the items are looking at reforms, and changes. And you can see that the President and Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is every second talking about reforms. Anywhere he goes, he's talking about reforms. And when you look at the meeting he had with the head of service, permanent secretaries, and some director generals,
and indeed,
it was again to pass this message that citizens are expecting the best out of MDAs.
And indeed, DG, those reforms are critical. Speaking of which, if we look closely at the announcement by the special advisor to the president, 2 agencies are to be scrapped, 15, I believe, are to be merged, 9 to be subsumed, while 4 are to be relocated. Now, in relation to Jeffrey's question, it's either way you look at it, it's a bitter pill to swallow. What is the component of job loss in this implementation of the report? How is the federal government dealing with this vis-a-vis your initial position that the government is carrying labor along, particularly amid the economic hardship that the country is currently facing?
Well, thank you very much. When the first report was submitted, it was clearly stated that government will and should ensure minimum loss of jobs in process of adopting those recommendations. Also, when the 3 committees that came up, 2023 and 2022, the same message was passed. And the Minister of Information has passed this message. There will be minimum loss of jobs, and he said government workers should not fear loss of jobs. So again, I would not want to preempt the committee. I'm sure we'll be briefing the public as we start our work. And labor is going to be part and parcel of this entire process.
But if 2 agencies are to be scrapped, inevitably there'll be job losses. Can you tell us exactly how many jobs are going?
Oronsaye's recommendation says you scrap the agencies and move the staff to where their services will be required.
So there's the parastatals on the one hand. Again, people are trying to figure how will this subsuming relocation really cut costs? Will that also incur more costs, have overlapping functions and the rest? Perhaps you want to speak to that. But a lot of people are then saying, okay, the MDAs, they're just a little part of this conversation. We also have, the politicians themselves, the National Assembly, all of those, we have bicameral legislative, for example, there's a conversation around that. But the money spent on all of that, is that also part of the conversation? So we'll look at this, from a whole gamut, the aides to the president, other governors and the rest, where you can have sometimes tens, dozens, and all of them doing the same thing sometimes. So is that also part of the conversation so we can really approach this holistically?
Well, thank you very much. If you take an agency that has a budget of 1 billion naira capital, a running cost of 800 million, example, that is subsumed by another agency, that capital expenditure and overhead running cost of 801 billion is definitely going away. So what is going to remain will be the aspects of personnel cost that will be assumed or will be taken over by the ministry or the agency that is subsuming. You recall our experience, gentlemen and lady, on when we scrapped NAPEB. We scrapped NAPEB, it went off, and the staff were properly placed where they belong to. So I think whatever decision is taken in terms of merger, scrapping, and demerging, definitely there will be cost benefits that will come to us as Nigerians. Now, the Goni-Aji committee had also gone further to recommend that political appointees should be guided by the circulars of federal government that determines the number or restricts the number of persons that are appointed as aides. Of course, you know, lots of circulars have been issued by the Office of the Secretary to the government on this, and it is expected that they are all abiding by that. Now, the legislative arm of government, as I stated, is working closely with us and the executive arm, especially the new committee constituted on public and institutional reform. So their buy-in is going to be obtained, and I think there's going to be this national call for all of us to make sacrifice in any way we can to improve. Yes, sir.
Apologies, please. We're totally out of time, but we needed to use the opportunity that you're here to throw in all the questions. But you have to answer this, please, in 30 seconds. But can I ask the question? I know you touched on it, because the number of aides we had for governors and the president is a lot. Even when we had the president say he's going to cut down his people that work with him in travel, we haven't seen so much, at least from a layman's perspective. Is this committee also going to, if it's not overreaching, recommend to the president that the number of ministries is even too much? 48 ministries. What is Nigeria doing 48 ministries when we're struggling with our finances? Isn't that something we need to consider as well? 48 ministries.
Well, these are all part of the recommendations made by those 3 committees that reviewed the Oronsaye report. So let's again give the committee a chance to be inaugurated, and all details will be made available. But you can see that government has done quite a lot in the last 6 months to reduce spendings in terms of who supports a minister, a permanent secretary, or the president and the vice president themselves.
All right.
If you look at their travels, they have reduced the number of people that travel with them. When it comes to states and local governments, I think that is out of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
But the call we are making is...
Go ahead, just land on your thoughts.
For all Nigerians, yes, for all Nigerians to look at Nigeria first before themselves, work and support the committee, support government on these laudable initiatives. At the end of the day, we believe that the common man on the street is going to benefit out of this initiatives.
Well, Dr. Dasuki Arabi, I'll have to thank you so much. We can never exhaust the questions, really. But the beauty of this is that we have 12 weeks. So from time to time, we can even be coming to you every other day to ask Dr. Arabi, how far have we come with this
what's the progress report?
What's the progress? Because that's what governance is about. We have to appreciate you for showing up.
Yes, but before I wanted to say 48 ministers, not ministries. I wanted to say 48 ministers. Yes, I need to put that on record.
Okay, so there you go. Dr. Dasuki Arabi, the DG BPSR, thank you so much for your time, and we'll look forward to having this conversation again.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
There you have it. So this is by no means the end of the conversation, but we'll go to break now. And when we return, you may have heard Bukola drop in some lines earlier on the show. So we're really going to explore this.
Due to popular demand.
We're going to explore this further in a few seconds. We have Illbliss Goretti joining us just about a couple of seconds. You don't want to miss this for anything. So stay right here on The Morning Break.
Welcome back to the morning brief. Now, this is my 30 minutes of fame, if that's possible. Illbliss is here and is about to sign me on. I'm going to cook up some lines. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, a lot has been said about the Nigerian rap community, whether they're a dub, you know, of their Western counterparts, but whether we like it or not, they have owned their space in character. In fact, you know, adopting the local languages for rap. So let's celebrate rap as we welcome Illbliss Goretti to the program.
Thank you guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Amazing.
How are you holding up with, the rising cost of commodities and all of that?
Well, we're coping. We're coping.
With lyrics, right?
Yeah, not just with lyrics, but with hustle and everything in and out of the music industry. So, yeah, we're Nigerians. We're very resilient, and this one is tough though, but we're going through it. I'm just positive things will just reset at some point, but right now it's tough for a lot of Nigerians. It's tough for the guys in the music space as well. Everybody in creatives are just trying to find their way around, finding more income streams. Yeah, so that's what it's about now, making more money. Yeah.
Yeah, Illbliss, one of the first questions I was going to ask you is what's happening to the rap community? I know there was a time where, the rap, Nigerian rap artists dominated the entertainment scene. There was Tribesmen, there was Mode 9, there was Sasha, there was Obi-Wan, you. But it seems like it's a situation of to your 10, so Israel. I may be wrong, but correct me.
Hip-hop music it's an evolving genre. Honestly, it's not always been top of mind for Nigerians because Nigeria is a rhythmic market. Afrobeat is very core for pop music. This is a society where pop reigns supreme. Hip-hop is growing. It just comes in different eras, you have the newer era now. With the new era comes an Odumodu Black. With the new era comes maybe like a Black Bones and so on and so forth, and those touches were handed over by my generation, and the generation before me. So it's growing, it's evolving. There are more rap listeners now, and with platforms like Spotify, Audiomack, people and Apple Music, YouTube Music, people are accessing, rap music a lot more. It's a growing market. It's not growing exponentially like Afrobeats, but it is growing. I just put out an album called Sidekai, and that's my 8th studio album. And that's my contribution further into ensuring that the genre doesn't, just cascade into anonymity. So we're walking, we're growing. I mean, a lot of OG rappers probably gave up along the way because it's become a very, very tough industry to operate in if you are independent, but nah, I'm too resilient for that, so I'm still putting out music. The album dropped on the 24th, and you should listen to it. The feedback is incredible, and I haven't made music in 4 years.
What?
Yes, yeah.
And it just takes me back to your history. You were just joking with us behind the scenes that you were a banker at some point, up until the point of assistant manager.
Oh, yes.
You said that. So you've been doing music for over 20 years.
Oh, yes.
If I'm correct.
Slightly lesser than that, but almost close. 16,
right?
About 16.
16 years.
Yeah.
And you championed the Igbo boy movement. A lot of people still call you Oga Boss.
Yeah.
Probably know you more as Oga Boss than Illbliss.
I have so many names.
I tell you.
Oga Boss, that Igbo boy, Odogu Male from King of Boys. It's just, I have too many monikers, but I grew up in the Southeast, so we feel like we came to Lagos to look for everything that we couldn't at that point find in the Southeast because the industry wasn't as developed as it is now. So Lagos has been great to us, just made us stars and gave us an opportunity to express ourselves. So I'm still championing that cause. Yeah.
And it takes me to the point, you've found a way to, from rapper to actor to, label boss, businessman. You've just found a way to keep reinventing yourself. You just talked about, a lot of people still see you as an actor now, even sometimes more than a rapper, and they see you as that character.
The younger generation.
So talk to us about how you've been able to stay relevant in the industry. Yes, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention, but then you have to always dig deep to get these things out. So how have you been able to stay relevant?
I'm simply a child of transitions. I've always felt like as a rapper, as an entertainer, the guys that inspired me in hip-hop are very dynamic. So a lot of them teared off into television at some point. I'll give you an instance. There's a new documentary currently running on Showmax that's called Free Men. It's a 7-part documentary series about the Igbo apprenticeship system.
Yeah.
So I executive produced it, and it just came out. So, and that's an original. So for me, I'm moving in different directions. That was in January. February, my album comes out. You know, March, and I'm showing new content. You know, I mean that will. It's an ecosystem of hustle. You know, but either it's in film format or it's in music format. I never stay in one direction. I never stay in one spot. You know, because I'm so scared of extinction, you know, and I want a situation where I will always be able to feed the fans, you know, and, you know, so it's just change. It's just being able to stay fluid in your hustle, you know, so that people would see you and you mean a lot more to different people rather than just being boxed into music.
So looking at what's going on in Nigeria now, I feel that this is the time that rap artists and those in hip-hop should be at the vanguard of the game, because by origin, it's activism. So why is that not happening? Because now we're carried away by the rhythm of Afrobeat and piano and all of that.
Yeah.
But if you know the history, like you know better than all of us, this is what really hip-hop in core is all about. This moment is what hip-hop is all about. Why are people not rising to that challenge? The younger generation, I mean.
Well, this is a conversation I've always had with the rap community, both the older ones and the younger ones. So I tell them we are instruments of change. Our music must reflect the times. And in the words of Nina Simone, your music must reflect what you are going through at every point in time. I do not honestly think that rappers have stood up to that responsibility, because what it is you can't make that record, it's too conscious, you know, it's too much of an activist record. People need pop records, you know, so that they can be able to, you know, stay within that Afrobeat space and pop music space. However, some rappers have dared to move in those directions. You know, Vector, for instance, has made, you know, records that spark off social change. MI has done the same. You know, and I just keep encouraging every platform, every chance I get. I tell the younger rappers, you're responsible for what's going on in the country. You are like a poet. So you need to speak up. You need to use your music to affect the change. It comes down to the economy of the business. People just want to be part of something that is thriving, something that catches on with pop culture. Activism through music is not the biggest sell, sadly, in Nigeria.
So just to follow up on that, I know that you're responsible for a couple of, Kayode mentioned it, some of the artists. I know Fino can credit his journey to you as a person. I don't know what is going on, because I know that when Idris Abdulkarim mentions the issue of the younger generation not being loyal and all of that, it gets a lot of flack. Do you also feel some kind of way or do you feel disrespected sometimes by this younger generation, or there are certain things you expect you're not getting from them? Not necessarily putting you in that Idris spot, but sometimes it feels like the argument of people like Burner will say, look, I didn't ride on anybody's back. I pushed this through on my own and all of that. So he has gotten a lot of anger from people, the OG, saying, you didn't just show up. We paved the way. Do you also feel that way?
First of all, people are entitled to their opinions. If you think that a way wasn't paved for you, that's your opinion. I've never been entitled. I know that everybody as a young artist was inspired by some older artist that probably did it in some way. Then Priya probably never held your hands and gave you a record deal and showed you exactly how to move, but just the music they were putting out at some point made you look at it and say, oh, it's possible to be a rapper. It's possible to be a singer. I feel like I challenge the OGs to go and make music. Ageism is such an issue in Nigeria, where you get to a point and it feels like you can't grow beyond here as an artist, or you're an OG and you sit down on your laurels and you want credit from the younger generation. They are working so hard. So they took that, so let's say that older generation built it up to a certain point, and they took it from there and they took it to yet another level. You know, in terms of flowers, our music is also poorly documented. So a lot of young artists don't even know what the OGs did. So they can't, off the top of their head, say, oh, this is the guy that invented this sound, or this is the guy that invented that sound. So they are moving in a space where they feel like they are creating things as they move. And they have so many tools to grow. Now, when I started music, there was very little social media. I think it was just MySpace, Facebook at its very embryonic stages, you know, and Nigerianland. These were the only places you could find information. But now you have all kinds of tools. You could blow up making music from a little room in your house. All you need to do is get on TikTok and push it. You know, so I don't like the energy. I don't like the energy from the OGs in a way, but I also kind of understand it when you're aging and you feel like, okay, I might not be top of mind for the younger people now, so I need to be mentioned. I need my flowers. You know, the younger artists ought to just research more, find out who is who, give their flowers to them, you know, and then the older artists need to keep working. There's no age, there are no age barriers. Nobody should ever restrict you. You have fans, you always had fans. Connect with your fans, build a community, and just build it up from there. That's what I've been doing, and I'm fortunate to be in this game this long.
But you know, Illbliss, Jeffrey's question about, you know, rap being a tool for activism is quite instructive. And again, it reminds me of the days of Plenty Nonsense by Tribesmen. The days where Tribesmen and the other guys were doing collaborations with Sasha when you worked with Wood 9. But we don't see that anymore. Perhaps if that structure was still in place, you know, you'll be speaking to the current social ills that we have now. And perhaps, don't you think that would also be a template for the younger generations that are not filling the space for rap?
So the younger generation, they have their own realities. They are addressing the issues that probably mean things to them or that affect them. They never said they were revolutionists. They never said their music was for social change. So it's just a culture shift. It's a generational thing. But every time I sit down with younger rappers, they know. I always tell them, I said, your sound is very powerful. You have a huge fan base. So you can't just make music about lifestyle and flexing and materialism. The primary role of being a rapper is your ability to stand and effect change in your society. A lot of them also don't have a lot of mentorship. When I was coming up, I had a lot of mentorship in the business, and I looked forward to certain kinds of rappers from outside the country, so I knew exactly, oh, this is what Public Enemy is doing, oh, this is what KRS-One is doing, this is what Queen Latifah is doing, so I had a lot of things to inspire me. Now, you don't have a lot, even in America, even in the States, you don't have a lot of rap that is driven, that is activist, you know, activism based. But I teach. All we can do is teach the generation that comes after us that, you know, teach them how powerful they are, teach them, you know, how they can sensitize their fans as well. Yeah, that's what I feel.
I'd like to speak on this fans conversation because there are no artists, rapper, singer without the fans.
Oh yeah, true.
But then there's a tricky part of it. As much as possible, you want to put out the right messaging out there, if you decide to. But also you want to put out something that your fans will listen to, or at least fans will listen to, such that your music will top the chart.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have hacked it and they realize that, well, Afrobeats is what's selling.
Yeah.
Maybe lewd content is what's selling. Talk about this, maybe dance with a lady on stage.
You didn't have to go there.
I didn't go anywhere. I'm just giving an example. I mean, that's what's selling now. We've seen how it's trended over the past couple of days. So they've hacked the system. So it's not hard. They just strategize, put it out there, blows, get a lot of streams, get a lot of money. A formula, right? They've hacked it, and that's what they do consistently. But then the question is, how is that helping us as a nation, as a people? I mean, hip-hop celebrated 50 years last year, and I know you were part of something related to that. And we've seen what hip-hop has done, not just for the black community, but even for, you know, governance, politics, and the rest, keeping people conscious. You listen to rap music and you are learning about governance, you're learning about the ills of the society, and you go out there and identify them and do what you can do. But that's not what we have. Sadly, what we're focused on is love and some other things down the line, which of course I can't talk about. So maybe we can speak to the fans, because it looks like that is a taste now. That's what a lot of people want to listen to. Do you sometimes want to speak to the fans, the streamers, and say, please, for the good of society, let us also pay attention to this kind of music? Yes, there are different products, there's different genres, but let's pay attention.
But I always do. On every album that I've always ever recorded, there's always a bunch of records that are targeted targeted at young people, but essentially tilting towards governance. So I feel like hip hop is advocacy. This record that is playing, this video that is playing is a video, the song's called Gen Z. Yeah. So this is it's like a parody. Like, I'm talking about the Gen Zs, I'm talking about, you know, how restless they are, how creative they are, you understand? And at the end of the record, there's a speech from a young girl that was about governance and how she truly felt about where we were going and how the youths are the ones that are actually impacting, you know, and bringing change in society. So I have always done this. The last time I won the Headies was for Lyricist on the Row in 2021 for a song called Country. And Country was brutally honest. I always stand on that pathway because my albums are never complete without this kind of records.
But I'm hoping you can speak to the fans.
No, but I do.
No, I'm saying right now.
Do. Okay, like
maybe
right
tell
now.
them that, hey, we know you want to listen to all the songs, but there's a message there are messages in our songs that can actually help us as a nation.
Absolutely. Okay, so dear fans.
An open letter to the fans.
Open letter to the fans. My name is Illbliss, Oga Boss, and we're having a great time with Afrobeats, and we've made so much hits. We've packed out so many arenas, you know, across the world. We're recognized as a genre to be, you know, to be respected. However, sometimes it just feels like a bit of a mindless party because we have so many issues in Nigeria that our music, we need the music to be a lot broader. We need people to also seek for substance that can spark off social change and correct society. To the musicians, when you sit down to make the records, sometimes attempt to deviate from the formulas and, you know, just make records that we can reflect to, records that we can affect, that can change the average Nigerian. It won't stop the streaming. I dare say it won't. You know, people will still stream it. You still make all that money that you're going to make. But as creatives, let's just use our art to change society. If it means anything.
I like that deviate from the formula. I already feel him like he's rapping already. But we cannot go without talking about your role in King of Boys.
And future roles.
And future roles. I know you had said you don't want to be boxed.
Yeah.
I think I watched an interview, but maybe talk to us, are you going to take more projects? Because you said yourself that younger generation just saw you as an actor. But this is an OG. So when we say OG, this is an OG. That's just one of the OG's, old guys. So movie industry.
Yeah.
Are you doing more this year or in the future? Because like after Odogu Male told the scriptwriters, can you just hold on for a bit? What's going on?
Yeah. So many scripts came in. I just decided everything. Odogu Male from King of Boys was such a successful character. So in typical Nigerian fashion, they try to box me in.
Typecast.
Yeah, they try to.
Oh, you look calm, by the way. You don't look anything like the character.
No, I'm not the character. This is the real me. Yeah. A lot of people even say, "How do so you can even speak like this?" But you had fractured pidgin, and it was just Kemi Adetiba. Shout out to Kemi Adetiba. She made an incredible film, gave me an opportunity to be Odogu Male, and it opened up my fan base as well. You know, a lot more. So I will do more films. I'm just taking my time, because I'm also producing documentaries, I'm also producing films, you know, so I've always I'm hugely inspired by 50 Cent. So when I look at 50, he hasn't rapped, about a decade. But then he's got the Power series and their spin-offs like Raising Canaan, Power Book, you know, like 4 or 5 seasons. And I'm looking at that universe and I'm like, this is how I want to age. I don't want to age, you know, just as a one-directional OG, you know. Yeah, so I will act. I will act. I am in the process.
Well, we can't let you go without you dropping a verse, maybe from Gen Z.
No, would it be from Gen Z?
Or any other thing. It could be from Sidikai.
It could be from Sidikai, okay. Made a lot of sacrifices. Fame comes with a lot of prices. My brother, stick to your right shoe sizes and do you. Stay you, but never lie to you. Understand that destinies differ. Sparker. And take shots of whatever you're sipping in your cup. Recline in your seats if you're heading home after work, listening to Chapo's verses. When the nazo genti bumye, onyobuna noche my money, my shiny bulye, manengwa kwa kaodi, ogadi kwa bloody. Ige easily na manaka gadi kwa modi. Asangwe luche manasengwe kwa lo the body, yotuodi. Fagasina ilia kwa bagogo, no dodu ka iligadi duogodu. Onye nupisi na government ebupia, onye kuo pim manya piasuo, mind calculating like a Casio. Next vacation, my brother Lazio. He wake and he wake up boys. With them boys getting money in abundance, 20 cars in accordance. What?
Ladies and gentlemen, Illbliss,
I just forget.
I need to go back to school.
I heard your verses. You're dope. I heard you.
I'm dope, right?
I heard you earlier.
Thank you for the
And
encouragement.
that was what, you know, you just got into the elements. Once you get into those flows, you're like, man, guys, fire.
It's an energy, man. It's you know, so when you see these things, for me, it's like this is what you are meant to do. You just get into that space. It's almost like it's spiritual.
It's a spirit.
It's a spirit. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you
so
for
much
having me on the
program.
Morning Brief. And please, fans, my new album is out. It's called Sidikai. Go and listen. The kind of messages I'm getting on social media is so uplifting. Like thousands, fans in their thousands, they are listening. They're like, finally, hip hop is restored. Finally, we have respect for hip hop is back. Oga Boss is back. Thank you so much to the fans. Thank you guys for having me.
We're super glad to have you here. We're super glad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so what a wonderful time I've had today. I'm getting signed, getting encouraged. We'll be back again tomorrow with another fantastic edition of the program. I am Bukola Koka.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm Jeff, who's almost messed up. Bye for that.
So let me do this.
Jeff is joining me.
I'll make it brief. This is the morning brief. All we got is love here, no beef. So please take a lead.
Oh!